One more time, just to make sure you're not clipping. Beautiful. Okay, Richard.
Sure.
Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fucked up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Hello and welcome to Occultae Veritatis podcast. I am Sage Murray, along with
Ood Gallifrey.
And fueled by aspartame and the decline of spirograph, we have Richard Bigley.
Joining us in studio we have
Arthur.
Lady Mercury, the second hottest bitch.
And a very special guest we have
Valhalla.
Can we add thunder and lightning to
Oh
that?
yes.
We have that sound clip still saved.
Oh yeah. We have recordings of the Hellhound barking. Hellhound? Is that how should I refer to her?
The Valhalla Hound? Well, my Hella Hound.
Yeah.
My Hella Hound.
That.
Who lets my son
Ride her like a horse.
Yeah, and also she takes treats out of my son's mouth.
And they nap together.
It's all very wholesome.
I feel like my child should meet your children.
I think that Cerberus would let Hades' kid ride him.
Yeah.
I think that matches.
Yeah. All right, so Ian David Karslake Watkins was born 30th of July, 1977. I'm going to pronounce all these Welsh words wrong. In Merthyr Tydfil, Wales. He was the lead vocalist and head songwriter of the super popular Welsh band Lostprophets. He is also a convicted pedophile. Buckle up, folks. It's a fucky one. Let's have some poison.
So, what's your poison?
For poison.
Are you going to introduce it, or?
No, okay, I'll let Lady Mercury introduce it because she brought it.
Right.
Yeah, we're just waiting on you.
Okay. Sorry. I was zoning out. Disassociating for a second. Okay, so what we have today is called hemp honey. It is honey liqueur. It is, like me, a product of Saskatchewan. Well, I am a product of Treaty 6. However, same. And we have a 30% alcohol volume here.
It's green.
It is green.
Like my entire life.
I've been sipping casually.
I'm slamming casually, so it's fantastic.
Slamming casually is the name of your sex tape.
This is a good name for sex.
Yeah, actually it is. Casual slamming. Yeah.
As opposed to scheduled slamming. Yeah.
just casual.
Impromptu slamming.
Yeah. Is this hard alcohol? This is 30-40%?
It's 30. It's very sweet. I feel like you can live your life however you'd like, but I personally wouldn't get drunk off of it because you're going to be hung the fuck over.
Yeah.
It's like a syrup, but you got to mix it with 7-Up or something.
Yeah, that's why I brought. Yeah,
it's deceptively smooth. I should not be trusted with that on my own kind of thing.
I thought I was going to have some later on in life, but I feel like the bottle's probably going to be gone today.
Yeah. It's got the Smirnoff Ice problem where you can put it away so quickly that it catches up to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's delicious. Sorry, I'm texting my school group.
And it's sweet, like you said, but it's not like a punch of intense flavor sweet. It just tastes like that honey flavor, right?
You know what? Let's do a shot of it.
Oh, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
It's like rockets.
Fuck you.
I know in America it's different.
I'm okay with it.
Figured it would go around. But it's like rockets. But you get them in like Halloween and
Like
you
the
crush
Halloween
them up.
candy, eh?
Yeah.
And you crush them up and you snort them? Or?
No, you blow it out the end and it looks like
Oh,
you're
that's pixie
smoking.
stick.
We're not talking about Ritalin right now.
There was always
I'm on Ritalin.
Fantastic.
There was always one table of
normal
kids.
dad.
There was always one table of kids at school that would crush up and snort.
Pixie
Literally
sticks.
everything?
Yeah.
Everything. Oh, wow.
That's very good.
Because they just liked being like pretending they're hardcore and like pretending they're doing cocaine.
Oh, look at me. I'm a baby drug addict. Now what are they doing? Where are they now?
No, I was just to inform you where they are now is back when I was 23, 24. There was a kid who was like, who dares me to smoke a credit card? And I'm like, cut up this. I don't know what it did. Like,
Sorry, smoke a credit card?
A Blockbuster's card? He was like, yeah, a credit card. I was like, I'll give you this. There was like a prepaid or something. And he absolutely did. And I was like, I've murdered somebody.
do you like cheese? Do you like cheese grate that thing or what?
Dioxins.
Oh, we cut it up very fine. And then he used a straw like he was doing some horrible drugs off tinfoil. It was bad times.
Oh my god.
When I was still involved in the cadet program, we had 3 cadets that went home on day 1. It was because 2 cadets sold laundry soap to a 3rd cadet, telling that 3rd cadet that laundry soap was cocaine, and that kid snorted it and burnt out his all his nasal cavities. So we had to send all 3 of them home, all 3 for disciplinary, and then 1 for medical and all that.
And that's why Ood can't smell anything from this day forward.
That was from back in the days where the day he attended.
You talk in third person, but we all know who you mean.
Oh, you've caught up to my skick.
All right, okay. So I will rate it like this is so good. I give it like a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go 9.5 for like the mixed version, but then the other version was a little harsher than I expected after drinking the mixed version. So, yeah, I'll go 9.5 out of 10 for that.
So good.
I'll give it 1 silence out of 2 potential throwing things across this table.
Solid rating.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. I love it.
I don't know. I was expecting, nobody disliked the pickle vodka as much as Richard did.
I love the pickle vodka.
I love pickled vodka.
I know.
But
Richard's a hater.
Next poison, instead of pickled vodka, I would just all kind of piss in a cup and drink it then, I guess.
Hater.
I mean,
we've eaten worse.
We've eaten cum drinking piss at this point. I mean,
we literally ate Leon's semen baked into a cake.
Wow.
I would like to point out for the record that I simply observed from above as benevolent and omnipotent. I was not a part of that.
Yep. Oh, double-blinded test. We didn't know which brownie was which because we made 1 regular, 1 with cum. Unanimous, we decided the cum one tasted better with a blind taste test. So, all you potential bakers out there looking to hit it big with a brand new recipe, you just gotta put some work into it. Yeah, make sure to label your shit though.
I was gonna say, if baking shows have taught me anything, it's that you have to balance out sweetness with salt.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Great British Bake Off and it is into its 40th season. It's about time they spice things up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna rate this an 8 out of 10. Just a disclaimer for this episode of the podcast. The crimes of Ian Watkins are among the most disturbing that we've covered yet on this podcast. It includes readings from the court case and between Ian Watkins and the mother of one of his victims. Actually, the mothers of several of his victims. And they go into graphic detail about what he did to these kids. And we don't really hold anything back. We read it verbatim, so make sure you're prepared to hear about graphic descriptions of child sexual abuse.
On Tuesday, it was reported that rock star Ian Watkins pleaded guilty to a string of child sex offences, including 2 counts of attempting to rape a baby.
So what drives someone to commit such horrific acts upon a child?
Away from Watkins is that we do now know that offenders are offending against younger and younger children. And of course the reason they do that is they know that that person won't be able to give evidence against them. So they have reduced, and it's, the horrific nature is that we're now seeing, police officers now regularly seeing images of children who are days old.
Not really satisfying, because it didn't really matter how long you got. It didn't really matter because it doesn't give all those kids lives. There's still loads of kids out there that are never going to be found because the babysitters, the mothers, their aunties, the cousins, the sisters whoever cared for those kids and was obsessed with him were involved. They're not going to come forward and incriminate themselves. The kids aren't going to come forward because they're too young. So it's irrelevant, the sentence that he got.
But you're pleased that the work that you'd done, something came to fruition from it?
Yes, because the police, as was proved in court the other week, had no clue about one of the mothers. It wasn't until I was interviewed as a witness that I brought it up and asked how the child was, and they didn't know who the hell I was talking about.
Okay, let's get into this fucking guy.
Yeah, this fucking guy.
Yeah. I just read the court half of it, and it was fucking... Anyways, yeah.
All right, so Watkins and his Hawthorne High School friend started a metal band in 1991 called Aftermath. They fucked around with other bands, but who cares? Until he started Lostprophets in 1997. So the band got really big and popular, and Ian Watkins started out pretty straight edge, but as their popularity grew, he started using drugs and alcohol very extensively, and this will come into play with the yucky shit.
Is it the standard like rock star drugs, like cocaine and uppers and all that?
Yeah, well, he started when he was 30. He started fucking hard with drugs and alcohol when he was 30.
Jeez, that's pretty old to start with it.
I was gonna say that's the time where you wind down.
Exactly. So it was around that time that Watkins began to groom his female fans. In 2012, a video emerged that showed Watkins performing a sex act on a baby. Also, CW for everything on this episode.
Yeah, future Ood, make sure to put a content warning on the front end.
There's lots of child sexual abuse in this episode.
Yeah.
Other videos came out. In one, Watkins watched a woman abuse her child. Watkins described the two as his slave duo. In another, he was filmed taking part in sexual acts with a young female fan from Boston, describing her as my underage slut.
And how old was this kid?
She was underage. She was like 16, 17.
Jesus.
But he mostly liked him real young, like baby young.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, he's scummy.
I just want to point out that young Ian Watkins looks a little bit like what the fuck's his name?
The guy from Stone Temple Pilots.
I was gonna say John Cusack, but
yes, to
Yeah.
John Cusack, not so much the dude from Stone Temple.
What's his name?
Pilots.
He looks like the evil dude from Spy Kids 1.
Yes,
the evil dude from.
That was it.
Who the fuck is that guy? Any of you who watch dumb movies in the 2000s, you know what I'm
wasn't he
talking
the same
about.
guy in Monkey Bone or whatever that movie was?
Yeah.
Was that the
Monkey
same
Bone.
guy?
That's
Yeah.
a deep cut.
Yeah. You don't know what I got at Blockbuster. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, we're Blockbuster, you old.
Blockbuster is like Netflix for millennials for all the Zoomers out there. In case you didn't know.
Blockbuster was great. There's nothing better than like going to the movie store and having like your dad sit in the car and like going and picking out a movie with all your friends.
And you had like the big new releases section.
Yeah,
and there was always nothing behind the.
Yeah.
Literally, you
Like,
guys are talking about
That's how
this,
you-
and I'm just getting triggered because, like, any fucking movie I wanted to fuck with, there was nothing behind it ever. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's why Netflix is better.
Yes, that was very upsetting. So, not as upsetting as this, though. So the videos were sent to the Cardiff Crown Court on December 12th, 2012. Watkins was arrested and charged with 13 sex offenses against children, including the attempted rape of a child.
Jeez.
After initially denying the charges, on November 26, 2013, Watkins pleaded guilty to charges that he attempted to rape the babies of two fans. So on November 28, 2013, an ex-girlfriend of Watkins, whose name was Joanne, her last name's been spelt differently in a bunch of different articles I read.
Yeah, I don't. Is that more of like a secrecy thing, or?
I don't know. It's like Mayak or Mjadzelics. Like I'll just call her Joanne.
Yeah.
one of those came over off the boat and they spelled their name a bunch of different ways. 'Cause
Maybe, I don't
white
know.
people can't pronounce white people names.
Yeah.
So she told The Sun that female fans of the Lostprophets singer were hiding the extent of his prolific drug-fueled child abuse.
Like,
Can you just rewind for a second, and I just have to ask, did you say he, for the attempted of the rape of the babies of his fans, like his fans were just like, here are my babies?
Yes.
That's horrible.
His fans were literally like, here are my babies.
How do you get to that level?
Yep. So Joanne said that she reported Watkins to the police 5 years previously, but she wasn't taken seriously. She said, in quotes, "I said to the police, there's hundreds of victims out there, and you're never going to find them because the mothers are in on it." So, obviously, Watkins continued the abuse after the police didn't take Joanne's allegations seriously. So, just kept on fucking babies.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, Joanne took her laptop into the cops 3 times to show them an indecent picture of an underage girl that Watkins had sent to her. But they kept being like, oh, that's nothing. Oh, I don't know what that is. So according to a report by police watchdog group, the Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC, an officer with no training in child sex abuse probes was assigned to the case. In the report, IPCC Commissioner Jan Williams is quoted as saying, having taken into consideration the nature and seriousness of Miss Mjadzelics, she's got several different names, allegations against Watkins, the inaction of some South Yorkshire police officers involved may have placed a child at risk for further abuse for several months.
I mean, and it's not like you get any specialized training in the academy to do that kind of stuff, so that's as irresponsible as just taking some Joe Schmo out there and giving them that responsibility.
Yeah, well, that officer probably had no idea what he was looking at either. She was like, I'm just some like cop, like just I don't know what was.
And you always have to think that local, there's always going to be fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or people who know the guitarist or whatever, who don't want to undermine or hurt anybody's career, even if it makes the local spot famous. That's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, a huge part of that too is just like, well, it couldn't have been them. They seem so nice.
Yeah.
Do you think like the insane extent of the crimes is like a protective somehow? Like they hear something that extreme that this rock star is fucking children, and it's almost too unbelievable to be taken seriously. Do you think that's a protective thing?
I think that really is. I think in so many situations, even ones that we are all directly impacted by, that we hear and see of, we end up being like, oh no, that can't be right? Because you're trying to save face for somebody who's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. All right, so she continued. The evidence suggests that there was a general view among officers at Dorchester that Joanne was not taken seriously, and consequently inquiries were not progressed as they should have been. The report continues. It is concerning that a neighborhood police constable without specific training or support, rather than an officer from a specialist team, was expected to view and make judgment on a potential image of child abuse. So Joanne was actually taken into court on a child pornography charge in 2015, but was cleared by a jury after they kind of accepted her account that she was trying to trick Watkins into revealing his crimes. So basically what she did, she was trying to goad Watkins into admitting his horrific child abuse so that she could have more evidence to deliver to the cops. So she would kind of go along with his like gross texts and be like, oh yeah, show me those pictures.
I see.
Like a creep catchers kind of situation, right?
Or catching predators.
Yeah, so that's kind of what she did for a while, but like thankfully she was acquitted or whatever of that charge, because she was literally just trying to be like, this person is a piece of shit.
So for then the fingers to suddenly turn around and be pointed at you, how did that feel?
I remember when they first came to arrest me and they told me what it was about, and I said, what, the images that I went to the chief constable about 3 years ago? Surprised, but at the end of the interview, the police interview, I said, go on then, charge me, because it'll all come out in court, the truth.
You've been through this ordeal of them not backing down, where a lot of people thought, well, this case is quite flimsy. It actually went to court, went to trial, and your name was cleared. But if we sort of rewind a little bit there, when you sort of realised it was going to go to court, how did that make you feel?
I welcomed it. I always said, this is what I want, because I was robbed of the chance of being on the stand at Watkins' trial and getting the truth out, because when I first wanted to complain to the IPCC, an officer from the Operation Globe team convinced me not to do it. She said, wait until after the trial, because it's all going to come out at trial anyway, all the mistakes.
Do you think they were already looking at throwing the book at you at that point then?
I don't think they were, no. I don't think they were, but it's just strange that 2 weeks after I put that, I talk about putting this complaint in January 2013. 2 weeks after that, the police referred themselves to the IPCC.
You've caused a lot of questions to be asked about the way that the Watkins investigation was carried out. Do you think that because you've been very vocal about it and caused the hassle, do you think it was a prosecution to try and teach you a lesson?
To discredit me. Because, of course, I was the only person that was going after Watkins. So, of course, I was the only person that went after the police and revealed their mistakes and exposed them because I wanted the truth out. Because, as I say, I was robbed of that chance at the trial. I wanted these officers to pay, and I went to my MPs. I went to a few MPs and demanded that police officers be charged.
So we get to the trial. You got to put your case forward. You were found not guilty on all charges.
Yeah.
Did you feel vindicated?
Yes, but I should never have been there. I mean, I welcomed it because I knew that was the only way that the truth would come out, and the truth did come out. I did feel vindicated, I suppose, yeah.
Had you ever doubted yourself during the trial?
No, because I knew the truth all along. I knew that I wasn't guilty of these offences. I knew the truth, and I knew that as soon as I was on that stand and I was dropping bombshell after bombshell, I knew the truth. I believed the truth, and many people believed the truth before it even got to trial.
Do you think what you did was foolhardy in trying to trap him? I mean, would you make that decision again based on the experience that you'd had?
Well, I remember a conversation that I had when I first went to Doncaster Police Station and I saw the officer there. I remember her saying to me, "You need to stop this, you're obsessed with this, you need to stop this, it's going to make you ill." And I said, "I'm already ill." And then she said, "Stop." She said, "You need to stop seeing him because you might get arrested too." I said, "I don't care. It'll be worth it if it gets him off the street, if it gets him away from those kids. I don't care. It'll be worth it."
The police aren't the only people that you've had a battle with, and proving what's going on with Watkins isn't the only battle that you've had to face, though, is it? You've had quite a lot of abuse from other people, haven't you? I mean, that's putting it mildly, isn't it?
It still goes on. Even after my acquittal, it still goes on.
What sorts of stuff are they? Is it just accusations that they're levelling at you, or is it more personal?
2 years ago, I was branded a paedophile by these crazy fans of Watkins just to cover the fact that their idol's been locked up, he's been held on remand for the crimes that he's done, and to deflect onto me from him. Just vile things about me.
Death threats?
I've had that. I've had death threats. I've had them posting my full address online, inviting people to come and see me and my son. They've even posted my auntie's address. Somehow they got access to my auntie's work address and posted that online. They started attacking her online. They're just nasty, evil people, and finally something's been done about it. I've been cleared by 11 members of the public in a Crown Court in front of a packed press gallery who believed the truth as well. And yet, these people still continue. Armchair lawyers. Yeah.
Yeah, I've read, reading different stories, I've ran into that a few times where people trying to report child pornography are charged themselves. Mm-hmm. The most recent one that comes to memory is people were trying to prove to Facebook, the company, that they had child porn on their site that wasn't being reported. And Facebook didn't believe them and said, "Bring us the proof." And they brought them the proof, and then Facebook took that information to the police, and those people were temporarily arrested until the details were understood.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of gross how it wasn't taken seriously.
Well, and the fact they put a new, some rando cop on it, it shows how ill-prepared these stations are for this.
Mm-hmm. Is it just you're a mom, so you're like, "Oh, I don't want my kid to ever experience something like that, so I'm not going to believe that that's going on?" Or, I just don't understand how the fuck somebody can say that to you, and you're like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, police through and through. Just...
I think there's also this mentality that if you believe in the efficacy and the efficiency of the police force you work for, you fall into a belief that the town you lord over must be pretty under control.
Right.
And you're an infallible cop, and that was kind of some of the research that I've done. They've found that it'll get passed off to somebody, and then that person will not really have a clue what the fuck's going on, and then they'll pass it off to some other expert, and the expert will look at it and completely miss, what's going on because the information he got from the original source is missing, vital information that you had needed to pick up on other things. So basically it gets passed around from officer to officer to expert to expert to expert to, wherever. And as it goes around, nobody picks up on, really subtle, very important things.
Legitimately the worst game of hot potato.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it becomes we're working on it, we're working on it, we're working on it, we're working on it. Now it's a cold case.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Joanne told jurors that police officers had ignored her warnings because she was a sex worker, which is like a whole other kettle of fish.
Oh.
Fuck. That's another thing. I've read so many jury transcripts where like the prosecution or the defense goes after somebody for doing sex work.
Yeah.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it is fucking bullshit. So Watkins also had some co-defendants, the mothers of 2 of the children he abused. They were called Woman A and Woman B. Their names have been leaked, but I'm not mentioning them on here. So they were convicted of 17 and 14 years in jail for the parts that they played in the sexual abuse of their own children. So basically, Ian Watkins had groomed these women to be like, well, if you love me, then your kid is mine too. And he would train these children to take, he would give them drugs and train them. He was training them to take drugs. So he'd get them all fucked up on drugs and then have sex with babies, basically.
Oh my God. Did any of these babies die?
I don't think that any of them died. But they, I didn't look into any of the children who had been abused, what happened after, like they could have died by suicide after. I don't know.
It's just like babies, like internal injury. Oh, it's so much.
And they were like 5-month-old babies to like 17-year-old.
Ugh, I'm getting hot.
Yeah,
well,
it's
like,
happening.
And like causing undue pain and torment to like something that doesn't understand what's happening.
To anything that doesn't want it.
Like, why just not pin him down and fuck the shit out of him constantly after that? Like, fuck you.
Well, like these are the types of cases that were like temporarily my view on the death penalty becomes completely reversed. Yeah, like usually I'm pretty liberal about that, but like when I hear about this shit, like bring on the guillotines,
Well, yeah, and he groomed these fans who liked his music. He groomed them to be like, oh well, you have a kid. Like, he's specifically targeted young mothers with young children in order to gain access to those children, and then he got the parents in on the abuse.
Is that what this, or something similar to this? There was a Criminal Minds episode about that vampire rock star who influenced that girl who had mental illness to like kill a bunch of people for him.
That wasn't the vampire rock star.
It was the manager. My bad.
Oh, yes.
Sage, we're gonna fight later.
Is that when Mandy Paquin was still in?
I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yes, it was.
I love him. He needs to be in more stuff.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he basically groomed women, got them on board with him having sex with their kids or them abusing their children and then sending the images to him.
I don't like anyone's music enough to let them have sex with a child.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Like,
agreed.
No.
Does it take a certain type of person to like be influenced by this type of grooming? Like I can't understand. Like, I would think they would have to be some kind of flawed individual to begin with, because how do you get from...
That sounds kind of victim-blamey, though. Right?
A little bit, but, like, I don't understand how you get from, like, hey, I love your music and I buy your stuff and I go to your concerts, to, hey, here's my child.
There's got to be an aspect of that hero worship, right? Yeah. Where they truly believe that, this artist, this musician is truly godlike.
Well, maybe it's like that Kemp thing, where he's very charismatic and very smart and very cunning and
knows how to make it
knows how
like
to make people, draw people in with that, that kind of charm. And, before you know it, one thing leads to another. No, here's my kid, like.
Well, it's not all at once. It's not like, hey, I'm Ian Watkins. I sing for the Lostprophets. Let me fuck your kid.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a strategic process that goes into it, and it happens before you realize it's happening. It's happening.
In the online world, predators use the same tactic, and it's what we call grooming, or law enforcement calls grooming. They build a relationship, they try to understand what they care about, they give them compliments, sometimes they'll even send presents or say nice things, and eventually a teen will start having feelings for a predator. And it's at that point where the danger begins.
The grooming behavior that we have seen can take months, or it can take a very short amount of time depending on the offender.
And little by little, the conversation will turn off into a very sexual nature, and they'll start to talk to the child about what their interests are, and they'll try to find out what the child's interests are. And often they will get the child to say things that the child couldn't even imagine talking about. And sometimes children will talk about things that they don't even know what they mean, because they're clearly very adult sexual conversations.
They are inundated with sexual images and sexual conversation that allow them to very freely participate in those types of conversations and activities. Typically, I would just start by asking for a regular picture, and then if it got to that level, I would eventually ask for a picture of more of a sexual nature.
Grooming is really easy to understand once you give thought to it. Everybody wants to feel love. And these people online are willing to make you feel that way. And it never occurs to you that the person that you're talking to may be a monster. And they do it in the most subtle ways. You get in a fight with a friend. Your friend called you that? Oh my gosh, why would your friend ever call you that? That's not a friend. I'm your real friend. I would never say anything like that. And they pull you away from everything around you, all your friends and your family and your teachers. And as you're getting pulled away, you're getting closer to him.
One of the devices that these predators use in the interactions with kids is sending them explicit photos of themselves. What they're trying to do is sort of deaden the nerve endings. They're trying to beat down the resistance. It's part of the grooming process to normalize what they're trying to do, and it's pretty insidious.
Not to mention, if he was incorporating, some kind of drugs in it too, what's to say that he didn't drug people and start doing something, and then eventually people just go, well, I'm already this far, it already seems fucked up, but I'm already here, I guess let him have my child?
Yeah.
Like, there's still a weird jump there, but... Yeah.
Well, and there's also addict mentality, right? Where if he's the one who's providing the drugs and they can't get it anywhere else, and he's created this, I'm the only one that can give you the hit you need, then you do whatever for the hit.
And even something like Stockholmy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or he would only give them attention if they provided him access to their child.
And this is like, if you're a big fan of this person, like, this is a person you see that has wisdom and intelligence. It has like access to things you might want. Like, maybe you're interested because you like want the same fame and power he does, so maybe getting a small piece of that is worth it.
I think an artist that has lyrics that speak to you on any level will always have that ability or that potential to have a profound influence on you, because if they're writing lyrics that you feel resonate with you on any level, then like that wisdom, like you said, they're always going to be that kind of that person that maybe knows how to say what you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Bo Burnham. He made a song about a burrito that made me cry. I mean...
Yeah, but that's Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely was smart. He has been described as a highly manipulative and devious sex offender, an organized and committed pedophile, a highly dangerous and manipulative individual who played on his victims in a calculated manner. So he was sentenced to 29 years in jail.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I've still got I got a little bit more. He's been back in the spotlight. So he was recently in the news because he was discovered with a cell phone while in jail. He had it up his ass. And it was discovered after a strip search on August 9th, 2019.
How long was he in prison? I feel like that's a long time because I know they toss cells. I know prison guards, and I know they toss cells a lot And that's a long time to have something up there all the time.
It was only recently. He like just got it. He started to get like bold, and he started posting on Twitter and stuff again.
Ooh.
And he has like he still gets hundreds of letters from fans. There are Facebook groups that are like, Ian Watkins should be free.
No.
He's innocent. Blah blah blah.
He should never be free ever.
No.
Just to answer that question, sorry, it looked like it was about 6 years. It looks like he was sentenced in 2013.
Yeah.
And then it was just last year that they found the phone up his rectum.
Yeah, like literally in his.
Inserted.
I would say ballsy, but it's more like assy.
I believe they call it. I mean, they do call it a prison pocket. So
yes. Or a large suitcase.
Mine's definitely like some jumbo carry-on.
Well, it depends. Are you packing for the afternoon? Or are you packing for the weekend? I mean,
you can be surprised what I can pack for a weekend. Anyway.
So yeah, that's basically it. He's a fucking piece of shit, and he's gross, and I don't like him.
Could I read from like?
Oh yeah, Kate. Yeah. Sorry, I totally forgot about your court case. I had Ood look up the court case because I couldn't find very much stuff.
No problem. The good thing about like the judge took extra time to like make a public document to document why this person was being convicted, why they do, and they set out in very normal, non-legalese language what happened so that people can understand like what took place. So. I'm going to read between what happened between Watkins and one of his victims that is called P. So you, P, were a little older than B. You are now 24. Your communications, P is one of the parents. Your communications with Watkins started in August 2012. It's not long before the communication turned to child sex abuse. There was talk of moving in together. Watkins said, "If you belong to me, so does your baby." You responded, "Understandable. A mother-daughter slave duo worshipping you." Watkins said, "That's all she will know, a life of filth." P said, brace for it, "The good thing about babies is putting anything near their mouths and they start sucking it."
Oh my God.
Yes. If you go to Reddit and go to r and go to top of all time, that's some good brain flushing. The subsequent communications planning even more depraved activities for this little girl, including forcing her to engage in sex with animals and how to take drugs to defy belief of her own situation. Watkins referred to the little girl as my little fuck toy. Watkins then said he cannot wait to get with a mother and daughter together taking crack cocaine. So he wanted eventually to groom both mother and daughter to be taking crack cocaine, and they can both be like sexual slaves of his. You spoke of whoring her out to old fat men, that's the little kid, who would pay thousands. You went on to know that she needs to know mommy and daddy don't love her, she is just there to make us come. Yeah, so, and that's just one of the parents and one of the victims.
Yeah.
If you want to read this whole document, I don't recommend it.
I do not.
I don't even want you to read any more of it out loud right now. Honestly.
Oh yeah, didn't he say to someone like it was all for the lulz? It was full of lulz, like LULZ.
I saw something
about
like
having
that.
sex with all these kids.
Oh, that's why. Like it wasn't because you were a fucking depraved person.
He did it for the gram.
Ood, would you like some bleach for your phone?
I think so. I use this phone from work. It's my only source of income, but I'm contemplating like smashing it in the driveway.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm sure there's some app program you can pay for right now that will help.
Yeah.
Or we can just publicly state, please, nobody, this was not ill intent from one goddess to the overlords of technology.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, you should see my search history. It's awful.
One other thing that's a little like gross to me is that when you Google Ian Watkins, as I have done for our screen here,
yeah,
the picture that comes up biggest is his mugshot, and then how to find him on Spotify and YouTube and Google Play Music.
Oh, goody.
Just so you can, listen to, as they describe him, the, child sex offender and lead singer of this band.
You think we could start some sort of campaign to get him removed from that?
I was good puppies. Okay, well, he was also like the ambassador for like the Kidney Foundation, and he visited a bunch of kids in hospitals.
Yeah, he did. Of course he did. That's horrible.
Yeah, and he did all that kind of stuff. Like his public persona was very like squeaky clean, and like I love children, but
Of course it was.
Penis in them.
It's like an R. Kelly thing.
Oh,
like
oh,
you know.
my goodness.
Have you listened to that episode yet?
No,
I broke
have
it
not.
before everyone else
Yeah,
did.
Yes,
we
you did.
scooped it by 6 months.
That's
Fuck you,
amazing.
media.
Good
Fuck you,
job.
MSN. We got
I'm very
you.
proud of that.
Did
I
you
did
guys-
definitely watch.
We're gonna scoop them on Onision too.
Yeah.
Just to bring some other gross stuff up, as I'm reading quickly, did you guys hear what the defense said for him?
Oh, yeah, he said all sorts. I didn't include lots of the defense stuff. This was really
yeah.
boy.
He had
Okay,
no-
just out of curiosity, I just want to hear one thing. That's it.
He had no recollection of the case involving the attempted rape, but had belatedly realized the gravity of what happened after developing an obsession with videoing himself having sex.
Yep.
That was part of the defense's argument.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
So they're trying to say that like him.
I don't remember doing
him recording himself having sex is what escalated the behavior to child rape.
No, it's how he found out that he was
That's
having
how
sex with babies.
He didn't
know.
remember.
So he was
He
just
didn't
chucking
know.
it into anything.
Was
like
he trying to?
LMAO, like that? He
it wasn't
literally did
chalked
it
up
for
to all
lulz,
the
like,
the crack cocaine that he was making
or
everybody
the fuck
do.
that you were. The fuck.
You're
the
filming
fact
it.
that you were filming yourself fucking babies.
Yes.
Like you didn't become privy to that at that point.
I've also
Having a dick must be so stressful.
I've also brought up a picture of a puppy for everyone.
Yeah, there's lots of
Yeah.
funny pictures. I appreciate that.
Can we get some cat pics?
Yeah.
Let me find some good ones here.
Okay.
If there are any other victims out there, then South Wales Police has said it'll work tirelessly to get them justice. But just how tirelessly did this force work to identify the threat posed by Watkins in the first place? Because South Wales Police and 2 other forces are all now under investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Commission, the IPCC, amid accusations they failed to stop Watkins despite repeated reports about him. Did you have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with him?
No, I would never describe it as that.
Many of those reports, we understand, were made by this woman, who is central to the IPCC's investigations. Joanne Mjadzelics, former soldier, former escort. She herself was arrested in connection with this case, but then released without further action. Inquiries continue, we're told. She first met Ian Watkins 7 years ago, and they began a casual relationship. It was on-off, she says, at the outset fueled by cocaine, and soon mired in his grotesque fantasies.
He began telling me about all these 14-year-old fans that he loved to take the virginity of, and then it just got worse and worse, and then he would start telling me things about he wanted to get me pregnant so that he could rape our daughter. He wanted to kidnap children. He wanted to get me involved in it.
It was in December 2008, almost 4 years before his arrest, that Joanne Mjadzelics claims she first reported Ian Watkins to South Wales Police. She claims she gave the Child Protection Unit in his hometown of Pontypridd the name of a girl aged around 4 whom he'd apparently boasted of abusing. She'd be interviewed by her local force in West Yorkshire, but eventually told, she claims, by a detective sergeant in South Wales Police that the investigation was being dropped.
I said to him, look, I'm not a psycho, I'm not a liar, I'm not anything else that Ian would have said I am. I'm telling the truth, and if anything else happens to another child, it's on your head, not mine. And that's how I left it. And that was April 2009.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to be playing one single note of a song from that fucker. So
No money for them.
No.
No.
And like, special request for everybody that listens, just because especially fuck this guy, never consume anything of his, not
No.
even out of curiosity.
It's not good. It's just like
As a
G-
musician
generic
who's worked
nu
with a
metal.
lot of people, I'm really happy that I cannot name or think of one song by them.
Yeah.
It's really like generic, like new metal, whatever.
Oh, then yeah, I wouldn't listen to it anyway.
It's not good. Just go listen to some Kill Switch Engage.
Yeah.
And they don't rape kids.
Yay!
Hooray!
Let's promote
Let's
Kill
play
Switch
them.
Engage.
What a low fucking bar this man has set.
Jesus. I always underestimate your episodes, and that's always a mistake.
Never underestimate my fuck-uppedness.
Like, when you pitched, like, child abuse rock star, I was like, okay, but, like, fuck that, like, he has zero empathy for his victims.
No, he doesn't give a shit.
He's not even pretending to have empathy.
Nope.
Like,
No, he's a monster.
Just out of curiosity, because of those of you who read the court business as far as the defense goes,
Yeah.
was there any attempt at an insanity plea, or was even his defense attorneys like, oh no, this is horrible and true, there's no way we can defend this? Because I feel like in the limited amount of things that I personally read about defense, it's always, if it's that bad, you go insanity right away.
There was no plea at insanity. I think they tried to register for it, but then when he was evaluated by a psychologist, they said, okay, you operated a rock star's lifestyle with like scheduling, and you like wrote new music, and you had to keep track of and meet hundreds of new people, and you were able to keep track of all that. So like your working memory was working, so we couldn't make insanity plea. And the amount of evidence that was out there was
absolutely
was substantial enough that they had all they could do was go for a plea and try and make excuses for his behavior.
Yeah, and in no way, shape, or form, for the record, am I trying to say that would be an appropriate defense for this horrible fucking monster.
They found like a shitload of like text messages like to women that he had been grooming, and like videos on his laptop, and like it was just.
Oh, but he just remembers it from watching the videos.
Yeah,
right.
Clearly,
got it.
The justice system is broken, and there's a lot of shitty arguments that can 100% legally be used in court to victimize whoever, or to drive whatever, or to protect
like that
whoever.
New 50 Shades of Grey clause or plea or whatever.
What?
What's that?
It's the excuse that men can get away with murdering women during sex, saying it was consensual BDSM play. It's a thing it's called the 50 Shades of Grey defense, or the 50 Shades defense.
Yeah, like I know some of you out there have listened to the BDSM episodes, but I want to reiterate again. Like, don't act irresponsibly. Like, act like you actually give a shit about the person that you're playing with, because you should. Like, take precautions. Like, if you're not thinking about safety first off, don't play, because you're not responsible enough to be doing it.
Absolutely.
All right, the end.
Yay!
That was stressful.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up partway through, but the defense thing and.
Oh no!
It's a shitty ass episode. Sorry about it.
Oh yeah, and like, you've listened to the podcast. We go on tangents all the fucking time.
Yeah. Okay, so for Occultae Veritatis, I am Sage Murray, along with
Ood Gallifrey,
Richard Bigley,
Arthur Dallas,
Lady Mercury,
and
Valhalla.
Okay, love you, bye!
Bye-bye.
Go look at pictures of puppies and kittens.
Please. Fuck that guy. Alrighty, playing us out this episode, Bobbie Cadillac from the 1920s with his song, He Throw That Thing. See you in the after show.
bop, bop, beep, beep, bop, beep, beep, bop, oh. I want everybody to know, man, blows that thing. It takes an educated woman to satisfy the fool. Buy him a plow, make him catch him a mule, so he can blow that thing. Beep, beep, bop, bop, blows the thing. Beep, beep, bop. I want everybody to know, man, blows that thing. I ain't never loved, hope I never will. The man I got now, he about to get me killed because he throws that thing. Beep, beep, bop, bop, blows the thing. Beep, beep, bop. I want everybody to know, learn how to throw that thing.
So, hey everybody. Thought it'd be nice to record an after show about this COVID-19 thing. By the way, COVID-19 can be sung to the tune of Come on, Eileen, do COVID-19. So, yeah, have a fun pandemic, everyone. But, main issue, here's a quick guide of all the stuff you need to know about COVID-19 from experts, from the CDC, from the World Health Organization, etc. Because there's a shitload of misinformation going out there, and you see people buying up shelves worth of toilet paper and all that. A bunch of nonsense. Here is what you should know. What is coronavirus? It's a respiratory illness that can spread from person to person. Now, respiratory means that the virus can travel in the air and is small enough to stick to airborne particles. And that also means that face masks are not going to be effective for stopping this virus. If you can breathe in and out of your mask, then those little virus buddies can hitch a ride on those little air particles going through the mask and go right through. Face masks do little to nothing, except maybe like a cyberpunk fashion statement. Maybe there. So there has been a number of COVID-19 cases that have been confirmed around the world. It's spreading. It's definitely spreading, but it hasn't hit the level of pandemic yet. Now, why people are taking this quite seriously is because the death toll of COVID-19 is fairly high compared to other coronaviruses. And it's as high as 3% in some areas. Now this number may be overinflated because we don't really have a working number to work with. We don't know every person out there that has this COVID-19 because most people that get this will just feel under the weather, like they have a cold, and it'll just pass on, and that's all they'll go through. And those people probably aren't going to get tested and aren't going to find out they have COVID-19, and they aren't going to get reported. So this high death toll is kind of a hard number to rely upon, but it is fairly high. The numbers I've seen vary from 2 to 4% depending on who is reporting. But again, we should wait for more information before we freak out, because that 3 to 4%, once the total number of cases are known, can easily drop way below 1%. What are the symptoms? Fever, cough, and shortness of breath. It's a respiratory illness. It infects the lungs, so anything that restricts your breathing or raises your temperature, gives you a chest cough, makes it hard to breathe a little bit, your airway feels a little bit constricted, could be COVID-19. Could be any of the other things that attack the respiratory, because, little germs and viruses, that's one of the main routes into the body is through the lungs, so it's easy to catch a ride on the air particles and go into the lungs and infect that area. So lots and lots of pathogens take advantage of that. Now, if you feel under the weather, of course, the recommendation is to stay home. Of course, in this capitalistic wasteland that we called home in the West, and of the rest of the world as well, people may feel pressure to go to work anyways. Maybe you simply can't afford to take time off work. In that case, make sure to cover or cough or sneeze into tissues and throw the tissues into the trash. Covering with your sleeve is all right. It's okay. But you are carrying that sleeve around with you. And you may be spreading whatever you coughed onto that sleeve to other places. So it's best to use a napkin or a Kleenex or something and sneeze or cough into that and then throw it away. And clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces. Anywhere that you might touch or breathe on or cough or sneeze onto, make sure to disinfect that. Kill any little germies you leave behind. How can you protect yourself from getting sick? Okay, so you're not sick. How do you prevent yourself from getting sick? The same way that we all have been given advice not to get sick this entire time. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. If somebody appears ill, maybe it's not cuddle time quite yet. Maybe wait a little while. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with your unwashed hands. I know harder said than done. I'm a face fidgeter. I like to stroke my beard, and I like to, rub my finger across my lips when I'm thinking. I'm bad at this, too, so I have to get better at this as well. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Why 20 seconds? Because studies show that the longer you wash your hands, the more effective it is. And that hits the upper limit at about 20 seconds of washing, when you've killed the grand majority of all diseases or germs or pathogens on your hands. And why hand washing rather than hand sanitizer? Because the act of washing, of actually rubbing your hands together and scrubbing your hands with the soap in between, that kind of mechanical motion of skin on soap, helps disinfect your hands. It gets rid of that top layer of skin that may be harboring some of these pathogens. Use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer that uses at least 60% alcohol if soap and water isn't available. Over 60% is very effective. Let's quickly summarize. So how does COVID-19 spread? Respiratory means. They hitch a ride on air particles, the little viruses, and they go from one person's lungs to another person's lungs, and so on and so forth. Also on undisinfected surfaces. The symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. How can you protect yourself? Avoid contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your face, nose, and mouth. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. And if you don't have soap, use alcohol-based sanitizer with at least 60% off alcohol. If you are sick, stay home. If you can't stay home, cover your mouth when you sneeze or you cough and throw that tissue away. And clean and disinfect any surfaces that you touch frequently. A vaccine may be coming, but don't hold your breath. Sometimes those things take a long time. Overall, stay calm, stay cool, keep clean, keep healthy. Don't be one of those people buying all the toilet paper in Walmart or wearing face masks when you don't have to. There is a logical way to deal with this. Listen to the experts, not the pundits. From Occultae Veritatis, I'm Mjadzelics. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.